Hello students, I am Dr. Himanshu Kandpal, Assistant Professor English, Government MS College for Women, Bikaner. Today we will start a new poem, The Soldier, written by one of the first great war poet, Rupert Brooke. About the poet. Rupert Brooke, born August 3, 1887, Rugby, Warwickshire, England, died April 23, 1915, Skyros, Greece, English poet, a well-born, gifted, handsome youth whose early death in World War I contributed to his idealized image in the interwar period. That is why he is closely identified with the ideas and thoughts related to the commencement of the World War I. The son of the Rugby school's housemaster, Brooke excelled in both academics and athletics. He entered his father's school at the age of 14. A lover of verse since the age of 9, he won the school poetry prize in 1905. So, Brooke received his education from Rugby and King's College, Cambridge, and wrote poetry, prose, and drama. His war sonnets include The Soldier by Soldier, also which appeared in the New Numbers early in 1915. In 1912, he compiled an anthology entitled Georgian Poetry 1911 to 1912 with Edward Marsh. The Georgian poets wrote in an anti-Victorian style using rustic themes and subjects such as friendship and love. While critics viewed Brooke's poetry as too sentimental and lacking depth, he also considered his work a reflection of the mood in England during the years leading up to World War I. Rupert Brooke's war poetry led him to become a hero of the nation due to the sentiments of patriotism and the presence of lyricism in his poetry. He returned to England at the outbreak of World War I and enlisted in the Royal Naval Division. His most famous work, the sonnet sequence 1914 and other poems, appeared in 1915. On April 23, 1915, after taking part in the Antwerp expedition, he died of blood poisoning from a mosquito bite while en route to Gallipoli with the Navy. He was buried on the island of Skyros in the Aegean Sea. Following his death, Brooke was already famous, became a symbol in England of the tragic loss of talented youth during the war. Subsequent to the horrors of World War I, Brooke faced tremendous criticism from the critics because of his glorification of war, and his poetry was considered simple and lacking in depth. However, despite such diverse opinions from the critics, Brooke occupies an important and significant place in the history of English literature for being representative of his age. Introduction to the poem The Soldier. The Soldier is one of the 5 sonnets that Brooke composed shortly after the starting of the World War I and published in 1915 with the title 1914 and other poems, and it is written in 2 stanzas, an octave and a sestet. It is one of the famous poems written by Brooke expressing the idealism common throughout the nations of Europe as they marched to battle in 1914. In this sonnet, Brooke glorifies England during the First World War. He speaks in the guise of an English soldier as he is leaving home to go to war. The poem represents the patriotic ideals that characterized pre-war England. It portrays death for one's country as noble and England as noblest country for which to die. In the octave of the sonnet, he says that his grave will be England herself and the impact people of England will have and the impact people of England will have on seeing this grave. In the sestet, the soldier speaks about his death as redemption, since it would be sacrifice for his motherland. He concludes by saying that he is indebted to his motherland and the debt can only be cleared by sacrificing his life for his motherland. He says to die for one's country is noble and honorable. Structurally, this sonnet follows the Petrarchan model, but in its rhyme scheme, it adopts Shakespearean model. The rhyming scheme of the poem is AB, AB, CD, ED, EF, EF and GG. Some more things about the poem. The Soldier was the last of 5 poems of Brooke's war sonnets about the start of World War I. As Brooke reached the end of his series, he turned to what happened when the soldier died while abroad in the middle of the conflict. When the Soldier was written, the bodies of servicemen were not regularly brought back to their homeland but buried nearby where they had died. In World War I, this produced vast graveyards of British soldiers in foreign fields, and this allows Brooke to portray these graves as representing a piece of the world that will be forever England. Writing at the start of the war, Brooke prefigured the vast number of soldiers whose bodies, torn to shreds or buried by shell fire, would remain buried and unknown as a result of the methods of the fighting that war. For a nation desperate to turn the senseless loss of its soldiers into something that could be coped with, even celebrated, this poem became a cornerstone of the remembrance process and is still in heavy use today, though it has been accused, not without merit, of idealizing and romanticizing war, and stands in stark contrast to the poetry of another great poet, Wilfred Owen. Religion is central to the second half of the poem, expressing the idea that soldier will awake in a heaven as a redeeming feature for his death in war. This poem also makes great use of patriotic language. It is not any dead soldier but an English one, written at a time when to be English was considered as the greatest thing to be. The soldier in the poem is considering his own death but is neither horrified nor regretful. He is proud enough to die for his motherland. Rather, religion, patriotism, and romanticism are central to distracting him. Some people regard Brooke's poem as among the last great ideals before the true horror of modern mechanized warfare was made clear to the world. But Brooke had seen action and knew well of a history where soldiers had been dying on English adventures in foreign countries for centuries and still wrote it. This is all about the poem The Soldier, written by Rupert Brooke. Thank you.